Kai Leng is one of the most hated characters in the Mass Effect universe, and as far as villains go, he's much more one-dimensional than legendary characters like the Illusive Man. But what if I told you there is more to Kai Leng's character than meets the eye, and he might actually be a better character than we all originally thought? You see, there's actually a ton of backstory for Kai Leng in the Mass Effect comics and novels, which 99% of players, myself included, simply miss out on. And this additional lore may shift your opinion on this much maligned character. So in this video, we're going to do a deep dive on Kai Leng's story, including his appearances in the Mass Effect Extended Universe. But before we dive into the Rat Tail Samurai, big shout out to today's sponsor, Wanted Dead. Have you ever wanted to be a katana-wielding, gun-toting, tatted-up baddie in a cyberpunk universe? Then Wanted Dead is the game for you. From the creators of iconic titles like Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive, Wanted Dead is a love letter to the hack-and-slash games of the PS3, Xbox 360 era. You'll play as Lieutenant Hannah Stone, leader of a zombie police unit in Hong Kong. You investigate a break-in at a mega corporation called Dower Synthetics and slowly unravel a sinister plot. Throughout the story, you'll fight through mercs and synthetic goons in a gun-fu style combat system. The combat encourages the player to mix melee attacks with guns to get an advantage over your enemies. It's incredibly fun to combo enemies with katanas and AKs, pulling up for a satisfying slow-mo finisher. Outside of combat, there are a variety of side activities and wacky mini-games to pursue, such as karaoke, a bullet hell arcade shooter, and even ramen eating competitions. Everything about this game is over the top and extra, and I'm absolutely here for it. I love the cyberpunk aesthetic blended with 90s retro technology, which provides a unique backdrop for the chaotic and visceral combat. I hope you've had the chance to experience the captivating charm of the unique game Wanted Dead, because I have some fantastic news for you. Act quickly, as Wanted Dead is currently being offered at an incredible 50% discount on both Xbox and PlayStation. The sale will run until July 25th on Xbox and August 2nd on PlayStation. And if these platforms aren't your preferred choices, don't worry, you can also find it available on Steam and the Epic Games Store. Don't miss out on this hot deal. Get it now using the link in the description. Big shout out to Wanted Dead for sponsoring this video. Kai Leng wasn't always a broody, rat-tailed samurai on the Illusive Man's payroll. He actually began his career in the Alliance military, lying about his age to sign up at just 16 years old. Leng quickly proved himself as a meticulous and dedicated soldier, winning several commendations and eventually getting recruited into the N7 program. However, he also ran into some trouble on occasion, being reprimanded for taking medals from dead enemy soldiers during a recon mission in the Exodus cluster. In this case, his exceptional service up to this point was taken into consideration, and he got off with a slap on the wrist. Despite a few speed bumps, things were looking great for the young Kai Leng, and a promising career rising through the ranks of the Alliance military looked all but certain. Unfortunately for Leng, his whole life was about to change. One evening when Kai Leng was on leave, he would visit a bar on the Citadel to unwind and blow off some steam. At some point during the night, he would get into an altercation with a Krogan and end up killing them with his standard issue service blade.
Tonight was a bar fight, man. We knew that was going to come in with a lot of energy. Tonight was a bar fight. You ever been in a bar fight?
In the aftermath, Leng was charged with first-degree murder and sentenced to 20 years in prison. He was also dishonorably discharged from the Alliance military, thus cutting short his bright career as a soldier. This was a major turning point in Leng's life. He was only 20 years old at the time, and one night of bad decisions permanently altered his trajectory and set him up for a life of crime. Leng's exceptional service record caught the eye of the Illusive Man, who helped spring the Rat Tail Samurai from prison. He immediately recruited Leng into Cerberus as an agent specializing in wet work and assassinations. Leng quickly became Elon Husk's go-to assassin, even mentoring and overseeing other Cerberus agents. We see this firsthand during the Mass Effect Foundation comics series, which details several jobs that Leng is involved with, alongside another Cerberus operative named Rasa. Leng tails Rasa on a mission to recruit Fist as a double agent for Cerberus. She resents Leng for following her on her mission because she thinks that he doesn't trust her to get the job done. Which is true because Leng doesn't trust her, and with good reason. Since our homeboy Rex has been hired as a hitman to take Fist out of the equation, persuasion, a feat which he will most likely carry out.
Oh my god!
Ultimately, Rasa botches the job. The Foundation comics cover a handful of different Cerberus missions, most of which take place around the events of Mass Effect 1 and 2. Leng shows up in most of these issues, but sometimes his appearance is basically just a quick scene, such as this discussion with Rasa about the origins of the Lazarus Project, where Rasa jokes that the Illusive Man might just be bringing on his replacement. The most interesting Kai Leng moments during Foundation actually involve an encounter with Jack before she got locked up. Leng receives reports that some crazy biotic lady destroyed a Cerberus training facility. His mission is to capture the perpetrator and bring them back to the Illusive Man for questioning, with Plan B involving a hit if they won't come quietly. Leng and Rasa arrive at the station to find Jack tearing the place apart. They try to bring her down, but of course Jack is too much of a badass and ends up wiping the floor with them before escaping. In the aftermath, Leng has a complete meltdown because he knows telling the Illusive Man about their failure will be a big problem. The Illusive Man has a reputation of even greater ruthlessness than Leng and has been known to terminate his own operatives in some cases. The price of failure is steep. You think he's finished dealing with us? By the time we land, he'll have new assignments for both of us. If we're lucky. This is one of the rare moments where we see an emotional Kai Leng in the series, with the other one being when Shepard has him mauling out on Kronos Station because he taunts him for running away. Throughout the comics and books, we see that one of Leng's big motivators is personal survival. He seeks to get the job done, not necessarily out of a sense of idealism, but because he knows that failure could potentially mean death for him. But in cases where his own life is in immediate danger, he's absolutely willing to abort the mission and bail out in order to save his own skin. We see this on the Citadel in Mass Effect 3, and we see it again in the Mass Effect novel Retribution. Written by legendary Mass Effect writer Drew Karpyshyn, Retribution tells the story of a dastardly Cerberus experiment on Paul Grayson. The broad strokes of the story are that Leng captures Grayson and Cerberus installs Reaper technology into him. Leng even suggests dosing Grayson with red sand, which is basically space crack, in order to weaken his constitution and make him more malleable to the Reaper implants. Long story short, the project goes sideways because, of course it does, and Grayson becomes a powerful Reaper abomination, escaping their grasp and eventually making his way to Grissom Academy. There are 3 certainties in this world: death, taxes, and Cerberus failing their own experiments. Leng pursues Grayson to Grissom Academy with the goal of either capturing or killing him. Leng eventually teams up with one of the biotic students named Nick. Meanwhile, Kaylee Standers and Anderson are also pursuing Grayson. The story ends with an armed confrontation, which Anderson mentions in Mass Effect 3.
Kai Leng. I shot him in both legs once.
While Grayson and Kaylee Sanders are speaking, Nick bum rushes them in a surprise attack, only to be shot in the stomach by Grayson. Anderson busts down the door and blasts Grayson with a shotgun before he can hurt Kaylee too. And Kai Leng takes the opportunity to roll up and pop 2 rounds into Grayson's dome, laying him to rest permanently. At this point, Anderson trains his gun on Kai Leng, forcing the latter to drop his weapons and surrender. Leng tries to convince Anderson to let him go peacefully. "I could have killed you, you know," Kai Leng said, keeping his eyes fixed firmly on the wall. "But I didn't. I have no reason to harm you. All I wanted was to stop Grayson. My job is done, just let me go." But Anderson refuses. At this point, Kaylee begs Anderson to help tend to the wounded student Nick while she goes to grab a Metagel pack. Nick is bleeding badly and won't last long enough to apply Metagel if no one tends to his wounds. But if Anderson helps Nick, then Kai Leng will take the opportunity to escape. Anderson tries ordering Leng to help Nick, but Kai Leng refuses, using this as leverage to try and convince Anderson to let him go. "You have a choice," the assassin calmly told him. "You staunch the flow of blood while Kaylee retrieves the medkit and I disappear, or you keep that gun pointed at me until security shows up and we all watch as the boy dies." But Anderson decides that there's a third option. As Anderson goes to help Nick, Leng rises to his feet and says, "I assume this means I'm free to go." Anderson took careful aim with the pistol and fired. The bullet lodged itself in the thick muscles at the back of the assassin's right thigh, causing him to cry out and drop back down to the floor. Writhing on the ground, he reached his hands down to awkwardly try to clutch at the wound. Anderson fired the trigger again, this time catching him in the calf of his other leg. "Security's on its way," Anderson noted. "If you want to get out of here, you better hurry."
I shot him in both legs once.
Anderson's the man, dude. In the aftermath, Leng manages to escape and reports back to the Illusive Man on Grayson's death. Eventually, he heals from his leg wounds, and that basically brings us up to speed on Leng's story until Mass Effect 3. So at the end of the day, is Kai Leng a well-written character? Well, not really. I still think there are some major gaps in his character development, like what are his motivations? We still don't really see this in the books or games. We know that he's a ruthless killer, but why? Does he just like the killing, or does he hold Cerberus ideals in some high regard? Some entries on Kai Leng's Mass Effect wiki note that he has a xenophobic streak, but we don't see a lot of first-hand evidence for this. Maybe you could argue the Krogan bar fight incident, but the details on that event aren't fleshed out enough to know if it was a racially motivated crime or just a drunken brawl turned deadly. I think it's good to draw a parallel with Ashley Williams. She harbors some resentment towards aliens, but through speaking with her, we can learn where this comes from. Her grandfather was disgraced by being the first general to surrender to an alien army in the Battle of Shanxi, and since then the Williams family was blackballed in the military, so she had to work a lot harder to make progress in her career, saying a Williams has to be better than the best. She sees the same characteristics with humanity establishing its place in the galaxy. The council races are not going to hand them anything, so they need to be able to stand on their own and fight for their own gains. Also, Ashley's views come to shift and change through her interactions with Shepard and our squad mates on the Normandy. But with Kai Leng, we don't have a clear sense of why he does what he does. From what I can gather, he is partly motivated by a will to survive. I also think he owes loyalty to the Illusive Man for getting him out of prison and giving him a new purpose in life. He went from facing down 20 years behind bars, from being able to carry out the one type of work he is good at. And let's be honest, in Mass Effect 3, Kai Leng sucks as a character. Plus, I don't think it's fair to need to read extended universe lore to make a character good. The characters need to stand on their own in the games. It is a video game franchise after all. But nonetheless, it is fun to learn a little bit more about this guy, even though he's still a cornball. So there you have it. A deep dive into the lore of Kai Leng in the Mass Effect series. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to Big Dan Gaming for more Mass Effect and RPG videos. Big shout out to all the channel members for supporting my content. Until next time, this has been Big Dan. I should go.